Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm joined by my podcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who was a Rock'em Sock'em defenseman for 11 seasons with the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. And Tom, let's start today's program by discussing the fact that we're now sort of hearing that some players are not as excited about going back, and not that they don't want to play hockey, because they do. They're just concerned about, we're going to end up playing within this bubble, and not that they're afraid of that, but I think the long extended stay away from their family concerns a lot of them. And anyway, your thoughts, and fill us in what you know.
Well, we talked about that with the baseball players, Mike Trout and everything too. They voiced their opinions on that. I just saw on TSN today that Frank Saravelli wrote about this Canadian center, Philip Danault, talking about how he had his doubts or his concerns about how the rest of the guys in the league would feel about leaving their families that long. And I got to believe him. And part of the issue too is, people say, well, geez, they need to make the money and everything, but that's where it's going to be a little bit of a split, right? The older guys that have maybe played for a while and have a lot of money in the bank, the financial concern isn't as big a deal to them. Whereas young guys that are getting their careers started, and obviously they don't have families and they don't have much money and they want to get going with their careers, they're going to want to get back and play. So it'd be interesting to be in those meetings at the Players Association and see what's being said. I'm assuming they must have done some kind of a poll to see how guys would feel about it. I'd be interested to see what the results are of that. But if I was playing right now, I'd be the same way. If I was a young guy getting started and I didn't have a family, then let's go. Yes, I need the money and I want to play. I want to get my career going in the right direction. But if I'm an older guy and I've made lots of money and I've got a young family or any age of family, and I'm thinking, geez, it's like we're rushing to get back. We're going to put ourselves in danger of potentially getting the virus. It hasn't stopped totally yet. And now I'm going to be away from my family on top of that. So that's a tough one.
Well, it is. I mean, one of the things that's common with athletes is their families are young. Like, it's not like you got a bunch of teenagers at home who are self-sufficient. You usually leave, your spouse behind, and she's got to deal with, and if it's 1, 2, or 3 young kids, it just makes it difficult. She could be working as well and trying to work from home, and it just could be. Messy indeed. And I don't envy Donald Fehr, because, you can poll all you want the players.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But, what if the split is, 20 to, 80-20, 80% of the players want to play in 20. Well, what do? Do you just tell the 20, well, you got to suck it up, because, or do you, try to convince the 80, hey, look, some of our brothers, are concerned about this, and maybe we should just take a step back and start fresh again next season. I'm not even. I come with no agenda on that. I wouldn't know what to do, and I don't envy them. I really don't. I think this.
What if they decide, okay, we're going to play, but then some guys just say, I'm not playing, right? I mean, those guys, are they treated like they normally would if they were to hold out during a season where the contract kind of gets frozen? And now, there's so many ramifications of that, right? If a guy's in the last year of a contract, it's going to be an unrestricted free agent. He doesn't go back and play. The league could say technically, okay, well then your free agency will have to be pushed back another year. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, the Alexei Yashin type situation.
Yes.
If you don't fulfill your contract, then you owe us one.
Yep.
But the peer pressure on this, let me just ask you. I mean, if you didn't want to go, but all your teammates were going to be there, and you're part of this young Ranger team that has a chance to, make the playoffs. I mean, could you let down your buddies? I mean, it's so complicated. Like, that's the thing. I've been thinking about this now for a while. Like, for any of us to cast any blame or criticism of these people that are trying to make such difficult decisions when there's no right answer. It's not like there's a handbook on how to deal with the pandemic. Every commissioner's in the same boat. You're dealing with so many different issues. You're dealing with people's lives in terms of their economic futures, then their lives in general. I mean, that should have been first. All of that. I don't know. It's just so, and I'm still, struggling on this. I want them to open up, but I'm nervous about it. There's just so many things that can that could go wrong. And who knows? Maybe if we do it, it'll be fine.
But you gotta believe. I mean, I hate to say it like this, that if it's not stopped totally, and you have people coming from all over the world now, which is who hockey players are, and all the broadcasters and everything, in all the different situations, the chances of nobody in that group contracting the virus during that time, I have a hard time believing that. I mean, I hope that's what happens. I hope they come back and play, obviously, and nobody ever gets the virus. But man, it's just the chances of it happening. Are pretty. They're there. But, it was funny. We had doing another show with some former Rangers, and Dave Maloney, who I played with the Rangers, does the broadcasting with the Rangers as well. And we kind of touched on that a little bit, what may happen. And there's even a talk of them. I think maybe I touched on it too, of not being at the game, right, sitting in some booth someplace doing the game, right, so that they're not exposed even more. So a lot of things to consider.
Yeah, I mean, and that's we don't think about that. I mean, I've brought up, like, if there was a group of people that you could worry less about, in my opinion, it would be athletes. These are guys in tip-top physical conditions, generally don't have underlying conditions, whatsoever. And, you would think they would handle it even if they contracted the disease. And we've seen, recovery from the younger people at a, very high rate. So you would think that. But the problem is that, with that group of people, the support crew, you have some people, you have general managers who, David Poyle, Jim Rutherford, Lou Lamoriello. These are general managers over 70. I think Ken Holland has got to be 64 or 65, somewhere in there. Don Waddell's in his 60s as well. The coach, Joe Quinville. We have broadcasters. Mike Emmerich is in his 70s. Beloved Eddie Olczyk, who I think everyone in the league loves, probably has a compromised immune system after a successful battle with cancer. So there's just so many, people that are involved with the game that would be around that, there are going to have to be some accommodations made for them, no matter what they if they want to be involved in it. And, I can't imagine. Can you imagine Lou Lamoriello not being there with his team? Like, he's going to just say, I'm going. That's my guess. I mean, I could be wrong.
You're right.
But
just imagine all the different scenarios too. I just sit there and think myself, I was playing, so I'm going to leave my family. I'm going to go play. And then what if somebody on my team now gets the virus? And my wife's at home with the kids and everything, and she said, "We need you to come home. You need to get out of there. This is about your life. This isn't just about the game anymore or money. It's about your life potentially, right?" And that's really the case here. So what do you do? And you just that's a lot.
Well, it's interesting now in the bad old days, and I'm calling that facetiously.
Yep.
You might have had some teammates chirping in your ear about, you just got to tell your wife,
Oh, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah. But that's not the way it is anymore. I think players are sympathetic toward home issues. Like, nobody thinks twice when you go home. And,
well, the issue of whether the guys get maternity leave when they
right.
Sick, right? Thought of doing that.
Well, it should be. I mean, like anybody who's had a newborn, especially your first one, when you really have no idea which end is up.
Yeah.
You need all hands on deck, to sail that ship.
When we played, we were wanting to get out of the house because we couldn't change diapers anyway. So we're saying we're useless and we're sleeping. So
yeah, it's so funny. Like everybody who has children just remembers those days. I with fondness but I remember we were working. I was working in Port Huron, Michigan. We were far away from our family. Really had no support group whatsoever. And you have your first child and you come home and it was July. We had no air conditioning. It was hot, and they give you your baby, and she's wearing that little hat that comes on on her head, and they say, whatever you do, don't take that cap off. And I remember that specifically. And it was so hot, and Erin, my oldest, she just wouldn't sleep. She just couldn't sleep. And I remember it being 2:00 in the morning, and I made this defiant stand. I turned to my wife and I said, "I'm taking that hat off."
Oh, no,
I was convinced that the hat was causing all the problems. So I marched in there, took that hat off, and of course she went right to sleep. And slept, 3 or 4 hours and gave us a little, relief. And she was so comfortable. But it was my first act of rebellion as a parent.
You're a wild man, Dr. Allen, the wild man.
Yeah, I'm taking that hat off. I said I took a stand. So anyway, we're getting off the track here. Let's do this. I had said last show that I think we're all getting a little depressed talking about the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I want to just sort of let's just say we're going to play, and let's have the not the glass half full, but 3/4 full.
Fill it up. Fill it
all the way to the top.
Yes.
Yeah. And I saw your march this morning, and you urged us all, your grasshoppers, to live large. So let's live large, and let's you and I talk about 5 things we want to see when we come back. Now, I'll start it out to do the obligatory, and I sincerely mean this. I want to see no positive tests. That's number 1, but that's the only thing that I'm going to mention with regard to the pandemic. But
that doesn't even count as your 5, right? Does that count in your 5?
No, it doesn't count as my 5. But let's just stipulate that's number 1.
Absolutely.
We don't want to see anything. I don't want to see anybody sick. I don't want to see any problems. So that's number 1 on my list. But that's not going to count as one of my 5.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, now this is one that's a little far-fetched.
Okay.
But boy, I think we need something like this. It doesn't have to be this exactly, but you know where I'm going.
Sure.
I want to see the finals end up with the Penguins and Crosby and Malkin playing the Oilers with McDavid and Draisaitl.
Interesting, because mine is very similar. 2 different teams, but mine's very similar. I've got Boston. I want to see Boston and St. Louis a rematch again. I love the way those 2 teams play, and I want to see a rematch.
I like your thinking. We went a different way. I wanted to just create some excitement with the personalities of the game, but you just wanted to have great hockey, which is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but I like yours too, because Connor McDavid, we need to see him play in the playoffs. He's such a talented player that I don't think North America or the world really has seen how great he can be in a whole playoff series. So I agree with yours too.
Now, and I don't want any of you people out there with your glasses half full saying, well, Edmonton's not going to get to the final. Let's think back to even 2012. Remember that New Jersey Devils team?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I looked this up because I knew what I was going to bring up here. But I remember saying the next year, after they got to the finals and started training camp, saying to people, name me 1 defenseman off that team. And because it was really a no-name defense, if you recall, and got there. And really was kind of just a total surprise. In fact, both teams that might have had a home ice advantage in that final. Both teams were there, but that defense included guys like Mark Fane and of course Andy Green, and then Adam Larson was a young defenseman as well.
Bryce Salvador there.
Bryce Salvador was really the rock. Of that defense, played really well. And Anton Volchenkov.
That's right.
God, I'd actually forgotten about Anton Volchenkov when I looked him up there. And Zedlicki played, Marek Zedlicki. I think he came over late in the trade, didn't he? Maybe?
Yeah.
And then Henrik Talander was also on that team as well. Wow. So, so I don't know. Look, do I think the Oilers are going to get in the final? I don't. But you can't rule it out. This is the NHL, and teams make runs, and the Oilers have some talented players.
They do,
and who knows? I mean, if your goalie gets hot at the right time, of course they got to pick the right goalie starting with. But anyway,
well, Mike Smith has proven that he can do it too, right?
Sure,
yeah, absolutely.
But let's and your team, your selection as well. I mean. That final last year was tug of war for me, and it was fun hockey. So,
and I love the way those 2 teams play. That, I love the disciplined game where it's fire and they're going after it hard, right? I mean, I've talked so many times about how much respect I have for Patrice Bergeron, Zdeno Chara, the way they run that organization there. They're the tip of the spear, and St. Louis. It's awful. Who's the coach's name? It's awful. I can't remember his name now. Craig Berube. I apologize. I mean, I love the way he coaches. I love the kind of the attitude he's got. So I would just love to see those guys back at it too. All right. So we were kind of in the same vein there, just 2 different teams. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. Number 2, I'd like to see some of the teams that are on the outside of the playoffs right now maybe your New York Rangers,
Yes.
maybe
Yeah.
the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah.
I'd like to see some teams that are on the outside right now come back during whatever length of regular season we're going to play and sneak in to the playoffs. I think it would be a good story, and of course, we'll all follow them to the playoffs. I think it would be a good storyline. I think we could follow it. I think that's possible, don't you?
So just everybody knows, Kevin and I did not compare notes on this subject before we started on these 5 things. But another one of mine was Rangers making the playoffs, and I know I'm prejudiced towards the Rangers, all that kind of stuff. You see that? Oh, there's that jersey up there. Oh, it is, yeah. But what I love about them, if you follow them all year long, they had a terrible schedule at the start of the season where they played like 1 game a week or whatever. They had all these young players, a hard time getting going into the season. They've gotten better and better and better. I love the way Panarin is playing, Zibanejad, the way he plays. They've just gotten better and better. The 2 young, great goaltenders have come along. I just think that it's almost be a shame to me if they didn't make the playoffs because the improvement in their game from the start of the year to the end of the year. I love the coaching staff they have here. I just love the way the progression this team has made. And I agree with you totally. It'd be nice to see some other teams too, but watching the Rangers all the time, I'd love to see them make the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think people would get into that too. They'd be sort of the Cinderella, and you need that going into the playoffs. So I think it would be good. It'd be sad for the teams right now that are in, and somebody's going to get bumped out. But that's the way it is. And really, I mean, that's why we want to finish the regular season. That's why the Board of Governors want to do that, because there's fairness involved with this. The season is supposed to be 82 games. That's what you plan on, and invariably we end up on the final day having a game that's meaningful to the playoff race. So let's finish it out and try to get that in.
And I've come around on that too. I was disagreeing with that a while ago. I was saying, no, just finish the season now at 68 games, winning percentage, whatever it is. But I've more and more thought about it, and we've gotten closer here. I do agree with you. To try to get more games in to give more teams a chance, I think it'd be some great hockey, and I think it is more fair.
Yeah, it's just fair. And number 3 for me is I'd love to see Ovi go on a tear down the stretch and into the playoffs. And you know what I'm talking about. Part of who Ovi is he goes on that streak where he gets 21 goals in 22 games.
Sure.
He's done it consistently. And I'd love to see him come back and do that, finish out the regular season on one of those, 14 goals in 11 games, and then carry it right into the playoffs. So that there's a buzz about him. I want a buzz about, look at Ovi's just going crazy with the goal scoring.
Yeah.
And there aren't many guys that can do that. In fact, I don't know that there's anyone else. I mean, even the great players like McDavid and
Draisaitl.
Draisaitl, those guys, not the way Ovi does. I mean, that's just a uniqueness about him that he can go on these tears that are just incredible. I mean, you got to go back.
He's so much fun to watch too when he's doing that. I was watching the replay on Sunday of the Washington win the Stanley Cup, and it's just like you forget the passion he brings to the game, right? When he's playing the game. I know that was a Stanley Cup final, and he's winning everything, but he plays that way all the time too. So, I love that. All right, so I'm going. We're number 3 now, right? I want Gerard Gallant back coaching in the National Hockey League as soon as that season opens. If I'm a general manager and I'm sitting around, and I know I'm going to be putting somebody else, maybe throwing them under the bus somewhat, but I'm looking at, say, the Calgary Flames, who had to fire the coach partway through the year. They get Jeff Ward in there, who's done a fine job. But, I mean, to me, Gerard Gallant has been a difference maker where he's coached. He's gotten the most out of his teams. So a team like the Calgary Flames, who, are on the borderline of making the cut, can't remember if they're in the Stanley Cup playoffs or not at this point. But he's sitting there. Why would you not? To me, it's like almost adding a free agent there. When we're past the deadline for all that kind of stuff. So I want to see Gerard Gallant back coaching in the National Hockey League.
Don't you think that New Jersey job is his if he wants it?
By all accounts it is. But I just think to myself, I've had all this time off now to sit here and analyze my team and talk to people and do whatever. And why would I not talk to Gerard Gallant if I'm somebody else? Listen, maybe it's right. Maybe it's all a done deal in New Jersey and he's going there. But I just think if they've missed an opportunity, I think they're going to be sorry that they missed an opportunity to get Gerard Gallant coach their team.
All right. Number 4 is a bit of an oddball and for me, and I can't even articulate really how I feel this way, but I'll try to. I hope Vegas wins a couple of playoff rounds. And I say that because I feel like we need a celebration of the game. And even though there's not much of a tradition in Vegas, in fact, there's virtually none in comparison to the original six, it just feels like, getting into Vegas and that unique way that they start games and, the number of people that come in and how loud the building is and the buildup in Vegas. And that's the entertainment capital of the world. I feel like we need it. We need Vegas in the playoffs, and we need kind of just a way to sort of say to the world, man, we're back. We're playing hockey. We're doing it in Vegas.
And Nashville's in that same category too, right?
Pardon me?
Nashville's in that same category too.
Sure. Yeah. No. I could. They're kind of Vegas too, because they got that country music scene going, and I love the way in Nashville they pound on the car with the sledgehammer and paint it like the other team, and that the employees line up and welcome the fans to the building, like all that. And it's not for everyone. Like traditionalists have said to me, well, that's not tradition. That's not us. In Montreal, that's real hockey tradition. And I say that's great. I like both. I love the old school, Montreal tradition where you go on the day of the game and the cab drivers and the people at the hotels, everybody's talking about the game, and they don't need all that glitz and glamour and skits.
And they don't in Montreal. Yeah, that's right.
No, they don't need all that. But there's room for both Montreal and Vegas. And when I tell people that don't like the Vegas pregame show, then tune in and say the game starts at 8:17 instead of 8 o'clock. Like, it's not that hard. Just don't.
How can you not like it? I mean, I think they're just.
Well, people say that they don't like it. I'm just saying, don't turn it on. Just say the game starts at 8:23 or whatever, and then when the puck drops, you tune in, and then you're happy. Because then it's just hockey. But I think we sort of just need a little Vegas in our life.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a little bit more down the road. It isn't when we immediately come back. But I hope that Henrik Lundqvist, I know it can happen this season, but I hope that Henrik Lundqvist makes a decision with the team to move on to some other organization instead of sitting here with the New York Rangers. He has had a fantastic career on and off the ice, a total professional, always being the leader, competitive guy. He's done everything he can for the team, the New York Rangers, for the city of New York. He's done everything he needs to do in his career. Other than win a cup, obviously, he's done a fantastic job. But clearly, the two young goaltenders are the future of the New York Rangers. And what I'm fearing is that next season, if Henrik Lundqvist is still here, he's going to be sitting up in the press box 90% of the games because those two young guys have to play. Now, in worst case scenario, one of those guys gets hurt or both of them, then you've got Henrik Lundqvist here. But, I mean, it's two great young goaltenders who have to get ice time and they have to play. I think for Henrik, if he was to go someplace else, I know his roots are New York. He's played his whole career here. But if he was to go to a Colorado, for instance, who's got a great young lineup, no guarantee to go to win a cup, but certainly would have a shot at winning the cup if they wanted him there. I would love to see him move on for his own good. I don't want to see him sitting here for and being a distraction for the team and having his career end in a way that he doesn't want it to end, sitting up in the press box most of the time.
I think another good fit for him might be with your good friend Don Waddell in Carolina. I think you could facilitate that. Use your New York Rangers connection to talk to Henrik Lundqvist and explain to him your history with Don Waddell and playing on the team with him and what an incredible guy he is. And then you can call Don Waddell and tell him what a wonderful man Henrik Lundqvist is, because he is that, in addition to being a great goalie. That seems like a perfect marriage to me.
So, you know what I'll do? I'll tell Henrik about the trip that we made in Don Waddell's pickup truck, 6 of us in his pickup truck from Marquette, Michigan, down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Yeah.
Don got us safely there and back. And on top of that, I broke the gear shift off the steering column before we left, and we fixed it with a roll of hockey tape. So it shows how the multitasker, the ingenuity that Don Waddell has, and how he took care of the whole group, all 6 of us. So I think that's perfect.
The fact that you and Don Waddell, whose personalities are drastically different, were such tight, close-knit friends, explains the wonder of hockey. And how it all kind of comes together, and why you can have a United Nations dress an American-born defenseman from Detroit and a Canadian farm boy, hit it off. Other than the time when you threw a hockey stick at him in practice, but that's another story.
It slipped out of my hands. Yes.
Yeah. And now, of course, we're going to work on a trade. You're going to get Henrik Lundqvist to Carolina.
We'll get it done.
Anyway, let's move on with this.
Fifth one.
I've got one final one, and I would love to see, especially in the first round, a bunch of 7-game series. Like I think we need to have a just high entertainment, excitement quotient in that first round. I'll be disappointed if half the series or more aren't decided in 7 games. I think we need a bunch of game 7s, and just to because we've been suffering. And I don't mean we've been suffering like the people who have had the virus, but in terms of trying to safeguard ourselves, it's been difficult not to have some sort of escapism. I'm not certainly suggesting that that what we're doing. Someone said that are you saying that in order to win this war we got to sit on our couch and watch television? America should win all those wars. We're really good at that.
Totally.
So anyway, I would love to see a bunch of game 7s.
And you know what? I think we got a good shot of having a lot of game 7s too. I think the parity in the league has gotten better and better every year as we go along here. So I hope that happens as well. All right, my last one. While we're sitting here and thinking about coming back to playing with no fans in the seats, all sports, and I'm thinking about how the NFL, if they played without fans, still would hurt them, right? I mean, it's ticket sales that they don't have. But NFL, it seems like it's such a great sport to watch on TV. Now, with hockey, for me, I love watching hockey on TV, but the knock against hockey, it seems to be the casual fan has a harder time following the game on TV. So now they're coming out with the idea of having this tracking puck. Now, I hope it's a huge success. I hope it is something that really, people now are starved to watch professional sports on TV. They say, let's watch a hockey game. And then they've got this tracking puck. So the fan that in the past had said, I don't want to watch hockey because I don't understand. I can't follow the play, know what's going on. And now this tracking puck finally works the way we hope it works. Then I think it's a great thing for the game because we may be going for a while here without people in the seats. And the more we can make it an entertaining and understandable game on TV, the better. So I hope the tracking puck works.
I like that. I have a theory on why, because obviously following the puck is not a problem on television anywhere in Canada or in European countries. What we're really talking about is America, where we have trouble. And I think we only have trouble in what we refer to in the business as non-traditional markets. And this is my theory on that. If you grow up in America in Mobile, Alabama, or Texas, or Southern California for the most part, or Idaho or Wyoming, or parts of Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, you probably played some form of football, baseball, or basketball when you were a kid. Yeah. So when you see a game on television, you don't need to see everybody on the field because you have a general idea of how it works. Like if you see the wide receiver in football starting down the field, someone's supposed to cover that guy. Yeah. Yeah. You feel it, you've seen it, you've played powder puff football, and you've done something when you were a kid in basketball and so forth. Same thing in baseball. You know where the outfielders are stationed. You don't need to see them. Yeah. And off the crack of a bat, if a ball is going to center field, someone's out there. Yeah. And they're going to try to flag that ball down. Right. So you don't need to see it all. I think what happens in hockey is you don't have a sense, unless you've grown up with the game, of where everybody is on the ice or what they're doing.
Yep.
And so that's why you say, I can't keep track of the puck. You don't really mean that. What you mean is, I don't know what everybody else is doing, so I sort of lose track of what's about to happen. I can't anticipate what's going to happen.
And the other part of that is to the rules. Like you bring up a good point. So if someone has played basketball or football or baseball, they know what the rules are, right? But if you haven't played hockey, you're sitting there watching and there's an icing that's made and all of a sudden the referee's blowing the whistle and everybody slows down, stops. You think, what happened there? I don't understand that. Or what's an offside? I almost wonder if we need to maybe use this opportunity as a time we've got time off here to do like on the NHL network or however you want to do it. explain the rules to fans. Have it so that when you come back to play. I just still think that we kind of, as hockey people, kind of take for granted that everybody understands those rules. But that casual fan that now wants to watch the game but watches for 5 minutes, I don't understand what's going on. But like to your point, they could watch a baseball game because they understand the rules because they played baseball when they're kids or whatever. So I think the rules are also part of that as well. But it's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, even in the schools, if you take a PE class, you've probably played basketball, football, or baseball. At some point, it's part of PE. You're not playing any hockey in a PE class. For all that reasons. Well, we've run out of time as always. The half hour always moves quickly, and we appreciate you listening. We'll be back next week. Hopefully, pretty soon. We're gonna, I think, have a plan for bringing the game back.
All right, perfect. All right, guys. See you next week.